What is the most exciting technology that has been invented in your lifetime? For me, the most exciting technology has been by far the World Wide Web. And of course, related technologies such as the smartphone and artificial intelligence. To be able to communicate with anyone, anytime, anywhere, and to find information about almost anything, anytime, anywhere, has been very fascinating for me. In fact, so fascinating that I sometimes lose my digital balance. I tend to be online longer than I initially intended to, or I sometimes miss my bus stop. How are you handling the endless and fascinating possibilities of being connected? When I look back, most of my professional life has been about the relationship between digital technologies and humans. When I was a teenager, I started reading blogs by technology researchers. I started writing newspaper articles about social media and other web stuff. I studied communications science, I became a communications consultant, and a researcher in digital media and digital transformation. These days, I'm considered a digital expert, and I published a book about the risks and rewards of the anytime, anywhere internet. But I'm still looking for the digital good life. When I share my story with you about trying to find the digital good life, I don't think it's just about my life. Technology has changed our lives so much. I think it's important for many of us to rethink the role of technology in our lives. When I was a child growing up in the 1980s, I wished I had a ring on my finger that would let me talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Back then, it was unimaginable to walk in the street and to talk to someone on another continent almost for free. My beloved grandmother, Elizabeth, was the head of a post office. She knew every postal code in Switzerland by heart. And back in her days, the post symbolized the world coming together through letters and telecommunications. In a similar way, the internet has always had the potential of bringing humanity closer together as well. By the time I became an adult, my futuristic childhood dream with the ring on my finger had turned into reality. I've had this idea for years that smartphones have turned humans into cyborgs. Cyborgs, it's a kind of an old term. It dates back to the 1960s. And it's about merging biology and technology. Even though the smartphone is not part of my human body, it sometimes feels that way. I rely on being connected with my smartphone like I rely on my basic human senses, like my sense of smell, my eyes, and my ears. When I talk about finding the digital good life, I talk about digital balance. I talk about balancing the risks and rewards of digital technologies. And sometimes digital technologies can improve our lives, and sometimes they're even hindering. Like I mentioned before, I sometimes miss my bus stop because I'm so glued to the screen, because it's so interesting what's happening there. And I see a lot of people do stupid things and dangerous things in traffic. I worry about people being burnt out by being constantly connected. I worry about digital privacy, digital surveillance, and I also worry about digital divides, which means that some people worldwide still don't have access to all these amazing technologies, and in the Western world, there's digital overload. So I think we need to bridge the gaps between those who have access to these amazing technologies and those who don't. One of my favorite topics that is related to digital balance is the so-called productivity paradox. It means that most often when we use technology, it actually makes us more productive and effective. But there is a point of diminishing returns. Take email, for example. It takes much less time to write an email than to write a letter. But I guess most of you would agree with me that we have way too many emails. And now, ironically, we're adding all these new productivity tools to have less emails. but we have even more inboxes and more notifications and more likes, comments, shares. So I think one of the most important skills that we need to develop in the digital age is some kind of digital wisdom. And a person who is digitally wise in that sense would know when the point of diminishing returns is reached. In a similar way, we need to figure out when artificial intelligence is actually helpful and improving our lives and when it isn't. Many people believe that machines will take over one day and that we will solve major problems using artificial intelligence. And I'm fascinated by AI too. For example, I love traveling, and I'm deeply grateful for AI-powered digital maps that tell me where to go and how to get there. I love playing around with funny filters on my phone with my niece and nephew. And I continue to be amazed by the fact that software on my phone can tell me which song is playing at a random restaurant. Many people have wild expectations when it comes to artificial intelligence, but they also have unrealistic fears, like that AI will steal most of our jobs. I don't think this is going to happen. There is no evidence that artificial intelligence will replace humans in the job market. But traditional media love to write about this. AI will steal these jobs or other jobs. I think we need to remember what AI really is. And we need to remember that human intelligence is much more complex. Howard Gardner created this very useful framework that describes various types of human intelligence. And when we look at these different types of human intelligence, like interpersonal, intrapersonal, or existential intelligence, we notice that AI is mostly limited to logical, mathematical intelligence. And of course, it can be helpful in other areas as well, but usually more as a kind of a support system and not as a replacement. For example, AI has become really powerful in the field of linguistic intelligence, even musical intelligence. Some of the major problems of humanity, like racism, other isms, environmental destructions, and war, will not be solved by artificial intelligence. We need human intelligence to tackle these issues, and we need skills that machines haven't been able to develop, like problem-solving skills, empathy, and ethics. Speaking of skills that are important in the digital age, I get asked a lot, what are the most important future skills? And besides developing digital skills, I'm convinced that we need to focus on character strengths as well. Character strengths are among the most fascinating topics in positive psychology. And research about the 24 character strengths has shown that 2 of them are particularly important and useful when it comes to a good life, when it comes to well-being. One of them is the love of learning. It's no secret that it's helpful to remain open to learning until our last breath. I saw this with my grandmother, Elizabeth. She was used to writing letters and postcards and adding beautiful stamps to them, but she was willing to learn how to use a smartphone when she was 96, and so she could send us messages from her smartphone when she was unable to write by hand, was unable to walk. So she never stopped learning, and she seemed grateful to be able to connect with us in person, but also through technology. And gratitude and being grateful is actually the best predictor of well-being. At least that's what the research in positive psychology and the 24 character strengths shows. If you want to raise your own gratitude levels, there's actually a very simple and easy technique to do so. You can write down 3 things every day you're grateful for. You can do it once a week or whenever. I've been doing it not very often, but I have still found my worldview shifting. To focus on what you have instead of what you lack is very helpful. I'm grateful for so many things, like peace in my country, like clean water, a roof over my head, people interested in my work, my partner, my family, my friends, and technology that is actually helpful in my life. The key to gratitude is not to take anything for granted. Last but not least, in our age of constant digital distraction, I'm convinced that we need to set priorities. We need to know what our priorities are. It becomes a superpower when you're always in the midst of digital notifications, likes, comments, shares, and messages. I think it's important to write down your big 5 priorities that you have for your life and review them at the end of every year. And additionally, you can write down 5 things you want to focus on in the course of the next year. So how can we find the digital good life? A lot of people think it's getting off digital technology and go for some kind of digital detox. And for some reason, I've been asked to comment a lot about digital detox, even though I've never advocated for it. It's too interesting for me. And I think the digital good life is not about digital detox. It's about living your best life with and despite of digital technologies. And to do so, I will continue to focus on 3 things: cultivating gratitude, keeping the love of learning alive, and setting priorities. Thank you very much.